United States of America, the Republic which it stands, one nation, indivisible, liberty, justice for all. Begin by taking attendance. I'm here, Bob Torsk is here, Richard O'Donnell is here, Gary is on Zoom, Francis is here. Valerie and Tanya are absent. United Law. We have to wait until 6:10, so I'll skip to item 2. Has everyone had a chance to read the minute from the July 6th meeting, and are there any additions, corrections, or revisions? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to accept the minutes as written.
I will make a motion to approve the July 6, 2026 regular planning commission meeting minutes as written.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any comment? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Sorry.
Can you hear us, Gary? Gary.
Frozen.
Yes. He did said. Yeah. But I don't think Gary, he's on the other page. No.
Yeah, he's there.
Gary, you're muted. Can you hear us?
Yeah, I was just seeing Dorothy. Gary's there.
I don't know, Gary, we can't hear him. Says we. Can anybody else hear? No, this is not muted. Ned, can you hear us? Can't hear them. Ned, you're muted.
All right. I can hear you loud and clear.
Gary.
Gary, you hear us?
Your head, yes, Ned. He's, I don't know. Gary's so looking for you. Speaking. Or anything else we could do quick, do you want to start, do you want to do the Haven Road, or you think that would be long?
I think there'll be more than 3 minutes.
I mean, we could start anytime after 6,
Yeah.
or before, but I don't know. Wow.
That's right.
See.
It's one. It's just some great guys. I have this next 3 minutes.
Hey, Gary. You can't hear us?
Gary.
Here? Keep that on the phone.
If you
I can hear you, but you're like frozen, we can't hear you. I don't know if you hear us.
he's on twice.
Hold on.
He's on twice. Got it. He's on
You're
his
on.
phone. He's on his computer. He's got to hang up.
You move here, you gotta hang up one of your, you're on twice.
I'm gonna kick him, right? Now he's muted on both of them.
You're on twice.
I'm gonna kick him off.
Oh, still on, you can't. Ned could hear us now. We can't hear you through it. That's. Okay.
Yeah.
We have one anyway, but
Yeah.
how about I just remote location?
It's 3+1.
Yeah.
Okay, so you need,
Yeah.
you have to dial in, and you need the number again, or? Okay. Alright, fine. He's gonna go on his cell phone and try that with. Busy guy get off multiple. He said he did.
You did.
He did. Now he's on one of them. That's 3 days.
You hear us now?
Yep, I can hear now.
There you are.
Perfect timing.
Okay, so I'm gonna kick you. Well, I'll just keep you on since it's working.
Go on.
Right.
Okay, Stan, open the public hearing. I'd like to propose the 1 lot subdivision located 0 Field Street. Down number 001-3801. Applicant and no 30 constructed.
Yay, so let me just go over some. Right now. The It was, the public hearing was noticed in the newspaper, this past Friday, I believe it's the 24th and the 31st. I don't have that in the, in the letter I gave to you. I got their green cards from their letters. Hold on. Got everything in order. Well, okay, inland wetlands approval was, I don't have the date, but they got inland wetlands approval
February
with
26th.
February 26th. Naugatuck Police Department approved it last week. There was no comments or conditions. Naugatuck Fire Department, their meeting is scheduled for tonight at 7, I believe their start, so we have pending. Zoning Commission, they have approval for 2 interior lots. Water Pollution Control approved it, granted the proposed sanitary sewer main extension to service all 11 lots. They got their letter from Connecticut Water Company certifying that adequate public water service is available and can be provided to the development. Their sediment and erosion control permit, they are submitting to the zoning commission this August 19th. They have 2 waivers they're requesting, the sidewalk installation and the open space. And then the other difference is they were requesting the installation of asphalt curbing in lieu of the standard granite required under subdivision section 5.3.12 A1. And that is it. You have all, everything that we're supposed to have.
All right, sorry.
Yes, for the record, David Nafis, licensed professional engineer and land surveyor with Nafis and Young Engineers, 1355 Middletown Avenue in Northford, Connecticut. I'm here on behalf of Total Construction, who is looking to develop this property on Field Street.
If you don't mind, could you turn the easel to the audience?
Well, they can see on the.
It's on the back.
On the back.
Yeah, and the back. This property is about 12 and a quarter acres. 4 of the acres is wetlands in the center of the property, runs kind of across the center. We plan on only developing about 4 of those acres, 4 to 12, so about a third of the property, and the other 4 acres that's not wetlands will remain as kind of natural and untouched. Part of this approval, we have to extend the sewer line up Field Street up around the corner to the end of the project, which it'll go past Mill Street. So we'll end up that we're gonna put sidewalks, concrete sidewalks the length on our side. Part of what is required is we're gonna have to widen the road So it's 15 feet from the center, so we're gonna end up widening our side of the road about 3 feet, almost the entire length, plus or minus. But it'll be 15 feet from the center on our side of the roadway, so it'll be opened up. We've added drainage to each property to handle all the storm events up to the 100-year storm. We also have added along the 2 rear lots. These 2 rear lots, they have long driveways. And part of what we heard through during the wetlands process was the neighbors worried that the water is going to flow down onto their property. So what we've done is we've added curbing on the lower side of both of those driveways, all the entire length. We've added some dry wells and some infiltration on the lower spots to catch any excess water, so the water shouldn't be flowing onto their property because we got 2 curbs to catch any water that might flow in that direction. Also along the property lines down there, we are going to add arborvitaes basically from the road around the corner on the back, basically to shield the developed property from the neighbors and from both. So there'll be arborvitaes the entire length of this, and then over there to keep as a buffer between the new and the old development. We were given part of the approval from the fire department. They requested that we've added gravel along a gravel strip along the edge of the pot paved, so they have a little extra room width. And we're going to add a drivable like gravel type area where they can drive across the lawn, so they don't have to. And there's going to be cross easements, so if they ever have to come in, they can do make a U-turn and come right back out without having to back up. And this area here will be gravel with grass, but they'll still be able to drive across it, even if we have to put some sort of blocking or something down. That was one of the things they requested us to do. We don't anticipate with the as far as any of the lots go, there will be no blasting for lots. If there is, maybe for the sewer or something like that, that'll be handled under the direction of the fire department. For any of the house developments, the developer has said if ledge is encountered, they will pin the foundation and either put a crawl space or a slab on grade. So there won't be any blasting for any of the foundations or anything along those lines. And yes, the one thing they were asking for, because currently right now there's bituminous concrete curbing along the length of the road, and we're just asking that we're allowed to just put back what's already currently there. That's why there's asking for a waiver from the granite to the bituminous curbing. Other than that, I think that's pretty much covers the basics of it. This is kind of a pictures of the proposed houses they are going to offer for sale in the neighborhood, just to give you an idea of what they're going to look like. The lots themselves are only going to be developed as far as they have to. We're not going to push back anymore. We've already established this line, and we're going to put some markers out based on what the wetlands require. So what you see here, kind of the yellowish green, will be the limit of it. If they go any farther, we'd have to go back to wetlands and ask for permission on that. So that's pretty much the limit of where we're going to be at for that. So at this point, I can either ask questions or you can open up to the public or whatever you'd like to do.
We'll go through the finishing first. Are there questions for the judge? It's not Robert.
A whole list of questions. There's a request for a waiver in the sidewalks, but if I just heard you correctly, you said there will be a sidewalk or concrete the entire length.
Yeah. This is Josh D'Onofrio from Total Construction.
All right, Josh D'Onofrio, Total Construction. So we're requesting a waiver for the sidewalks in certain areas. When you get down towards the corner and so forth, there's power lines and whatnot that are in the way. So we're putting the request in and see how the sidewalk plan would lay out. If we can eliminate some sidewalks in certain areas. I spoke with the post office, but I know there was concern. They'd put the mailboxes all down at the corner, then the sidewalks would make sense. After speaking with the post office, they said no, they don't want the mailbox down at the corners. They want them directly in front of each house. So that would kind of eliminate the need for the sidewalk down in that corner, where there's a lot of traffic already with, power lines and rope cables and so forth. So that's where the, request came in.
So your perception was that the sidewalk was a necessity because of, possibility of a group mailbox?
That was a concern, yes, that was one of the questions.
I, my concern would be, we already have parents, at the intersection with Timothy and Hill Street that, wait in their cars for their kids to pick up school buses because there's no safe place for the kids. So the sidewalks, my perspective, are far more important for, any children that might be there.
Understood, safety's huge. If we do a side, I don't know if you're familiar with, but if we do a sidewalk to that corner, just on the other side of the street is an embankment that rolls right down to the street. So it would be a very difficult sidewalk down the road to put in, on both sides. But absolutely, it was a request, it was a thought, and, I'll give you feedback.
Josh? Please say.
Oh, yeah, maybe I could expand on that one a little bit too. On this upper end, I think this is mostly what he's talking about because there's a lot of utilities and that are currently there with power lines and guide wires and stuff like that. So if one of the requests was up in this area, it'd be a little tricky to try to snake the sidewalks in under all the power lines. So you got guide wires that come down and the kids would almost have to like walk under, I don't think you want kids riding bikes under guide wires. So the power company would have to make some sort of modifications or something in that area just for safety on that spot, because you wouldn't want kids riding bike with a guide wire just above their heads, veer off and hit it. We'd have to push the sidewalks back, or we'd have to make some sort of modifications, mostly just in this upper area here.
If the road is gonna be widened, would that intrude with those poles anyways?
Yes, but most likely what the power company will do is just move the poles back there, but they'll still need the guide wires to keep the poles from pulling inward. It's mostly the guide wires that are the problem, right? They gotta hold the poles up.
No questions? Yeah, I've got a few. Everyone else, say. Josh, come back up. First, we received a new set of drawings. Revision 8. That removed the sidewalk, removed the road widening. You just told us you're going to put in sidewalks and widen the road. Let me ask that before we hold our next part of the hearing.
Can you speak up a little, please? Thank you.
Okay,
You
sorry.
that closer.
You revised the drawings again to reflect the 5-foot ADA sidewalk where you want them. All the way through where you don't want them, and what precisely you're doing in terms of widening the road. There were sidewalks and road widening on a prior revision of the drawings that were removed. What we're looking at now has no sidewalks, no road widening. So, as we're saying, we're getting sidewalks and road widening. You need a drawing revision to reflect that before we do this. Similarly, the installation of the sewer and water to each of the 9 lots on Field Street are going to require an intrusion through the existing curbing to the property in some fashion, minimum of the width of the driveway, maybe more for construction equipment and stuff like that. I'd like to know the extent to which the curbing is going to be, the existing curbing is going to be disturbed. That will affect your request for curbing waiver. If the 52% of the curb is going to be torn up in the street work and the construction, not likely that we'll have an issue to discuss there in addressing your way out. I guess that's generally it for this street. I have some other questions about the stormwater management system. Our regulations 3.2.7 require that you submit to us a maintenance plan for the stormwater system, which would include the galleys installed on each property and any of the stonework that is part of the stormwater management system. Question there, well, first, we need those instructions prepared, and we can review them. Second, the question is, how are those requirements transmitted to the initial homeowner and the subsequent homeowner, so that they know what they have to do and how they have to do it? Some lots have 6, 8 galleys on them. Each galley has an individual inspection report. What is the homeowner's requirement? What are you doing in the construction of the house that makes that possible? Does the homeowner have to dig up the yard twice a year to conduct the inspection and the cleaning? That needs to be addressed by more than a note on a drawing that the homeowner will never see. And then how is it transmitted to subsequent owners if there's an eventual sale? Ask that because neglect of the system might possibly cause consequential damages to neighbors. And if he doesn't know he's got to do it, you don't want that to end up in our purview.
Understood.
In addition, the maintenance of the gravel area between the two interior lots needs to be defined. And if it's going to be a restriction on the deed, such as we have been told in fact, about the maintenance of the basin, same questions apply to that area.
And also to the two large driveways. Whose responsibility is it to inspect and clean those on whatever basis? And how is that transmitted to the process? You talked about Eversource and the poles and the light and building. Our requirements in the subdivision regulations are for underground utilities for development. You've got partial underground utilities and partial above ground. We need a written justification for not installing underground utilities. I mean, you talked about guy wires. That's, forgive me, that's not a reason not to put underground utilities in. But anyway, that's something that's missing from our requirements. No big deal, doesn't have to be answered tonight.
Well, for that, I can tell you that the only anything that's overhead now will probably be utilized by the company, but any new connections will all be underground.
Our requirements are that if you are creating a development that must have underground utilities, notwithstanding what's overhead now. It has to be taken down and put underground. And if not, why not? We need something from you on that. Other than we're not going to do it.
Speaking with the Eversource, what they said was, this is a phone conversation, so I can get it in an email from them as well. But they were going to utilize the poles up right there. And this is coming from them. They were going to utilize the poles and go underground from there. And they won't do anything until an actual work order is created. Right. So I can't get a definitive answer until we get a definitive go for work. That's what they told me.
Question part. You have to ask Eversource what's required to put underground utilities in the subdivision. Ask the question in a different
Bob, you're
way.
talking about taking all the power lines that are there now.
The four poles that are there on the top half, put them underground. That's what our regulations say. So we can make sure you do that. You would need a justification for not doing it. Then you need to ask every source the question perhaps in a different way.
If I ask them, and they won't do anything. They won't give me any answers
What?
until a work order is created.
That's an open issue. Also, in the drilling package, there's no landscape plan. We get the landscape plan for the development, not just the protection, not just the buffer, but the state of. That's got to do. Street lighting. There are two street lights in position right now, one at the intersection of Beale Street. On the far side, and one light on Beale Street. I think you need to review that in light of developing this to 9 homes on Beale Street. Addressing whether an additional light or two might be required for safety concerns. And let us know what you thought about it. Putting in the sewer extension. Do you have a feel for what kind of construction that will involve in that section of Field Street? How much of the street are you going to tear up? How long is it going to take? We have a traffic issue. Yeah. I don't know what's in Field Street back there, whether you don't do it. I mean, can we just take a hole into the pipe in, or is there some ledge?
There's probably be some ledge, I imagine, they're deep in spots and it's possible deep. And I think that they're gonna be, given the number of utility crossings, they're gonna be repaving the road, so.
Oh, yeah. You know what, that's all I have except, for the commission. I would like to request, permission to conduct a sidewalk. You don't have that now. So we can go and take a look at the neighborhood and see what. I mean, I live there, I live right around the corner, so I'm very familiar with it. Not everybody on the commission is, but. We want permission to, about the sidewalk.
You want a public sidewalk or individual?
I would be delighted with a public site walk if there was sufficient people. To supervise for all.
I don't know if I could do that one, the liabilities. Yeah. It's not open to the public. If the commission wants to, okay, but I'm not gonna open the yard to the public, liability purposes.
One last
Oh,
question.
we have to do individual or two at a time.
Which we can schedule with.
We could schedule with two. I've done it with weapons.
All right, let's. Two at a time.
Yeah.
One last question. In the plans as drawn, there's a setback from the actual edge of the wetlands. Are the potential property owners allowed to build decks over that, patios over that?
On the wetlands or in the review?
There's a setback from the actual property. And the houses, as drawn, are all outside of that setback. I buy a house, am I allowed to build a deck over that area?
You're gonna go back to the wetlands department like everybody else and bring the plan to them and ask them. It's not something that we're looking to do.
Will the deeds reflect that requirement? Because again, if they're unaware of it,
I can upland review area, where if somebody comes in and wants to put a deck, a shed, anything in the upland. Well, to do any of those, you need a permit, zoning permit. On the zoning permit, it asks if it's in the upland review area or wetlands. So it automatically would get kicked back to me to look at talk to my commission about to see if it's administrative approval or if they have to go for the commission. So it doesn't need to be in the deed.
Are there any other questions for the commission? Mary?
Then no.
No. No. That's well, it's wonderful. In that case, I'll open it up to the public. If anyone has any questions or comments, please come to the podium.
Hello, everyone. My name's Tom Sullivan. I live at 122 Field Street, which is this property right there. I want to start off by saying, and I think I could speak for most property owners in the area, we're not opposed to development done responsibly for a property owner. But there are concerns. I've lived there for 14 years, and I guess that kind of makes me an expert on what the issues are there. So I've lived through them many times. And I'm just trying to make sure that the committee gets the information they need to solve some of these problems before there's 11 new houses and everybody has a problem. So with that said, one of my questions was, and I think one of the biggest safety concerns is, has a traffic study been done? In the 14 years of living there, there's been numerous accidents. Speed limit's 25, and on average, cars are doing 50 miles an hour, 60, especially if they're coming up Field Street from 63. Stop signs are not adhered to. I go out walking at 6 o'clock in the morning, and I'll bet you 7 out of 10 cars don't stop at the stop sign at the bottom, 500 feet from my house. They just move right to it. Recently, I know that cars have driven off Field Street within this development area into my neighbor's pools, took out their pool in their backyard. I've driven off the walls, bottom of it, goes down by the gas station, right across the lawn and off a 4 or 5 foot wall. Most recently, my truck was hit in front of in my driveway. And then the car continued on and hit the house next door to me. Which I think anybody that's gone up Field Street knows the house I'm talking about. Where it basically destroyed the foundation. The house was built in 1885, I think. So it had to be torn out, rebuilt. I think I'm on my 4th mailbox right now in the 14 years. Because the mailbox just keep getting taken out and hit. So a study done for accidents, certainly speed. And I don't know what the answer to that is. Speed bumps. I know there's other towns doing cameras now and collecting information, and you get a ticket mailed to your house. I don't know if that's what slows them down, but I can tell you that I personally went down to the police department, lodged a complaint about the speed, and offered up my driveway for them to sit in. I've never seen a police car enforcing it, giving a ticket for using my drive. So I know that's not the job of this committee, but it's a frustration. And it comes down to, especially for most of my neighbors, either pull into their property, and if they have the room, they turn their car around so that they don't have to back out onto Field Street. But at times I don't have it in my driveway, but I'll back into it from Field Street, and folks coming up the hill, they don't even want to stop. They don't even let you back in. So I know my neighbors that are in the mill house, right in the middle of the development. They have a driveway that kind of comes upward to the road, which most of these houses will have that. because the ground is lower than the road. And when you pull out, you can see the stop sign at the corner of Mill. But you don't know who's coming up over the knoll at 50 miles an hour. When you pull out of that driveway, you can't pull out just into the right lane. You have to go make your swing into the other lane to get straightened out again. So, I mean, that's just one driveway. And now we're gonna add 11 more. So it's a line of sight deficiency and endangered. So I know you said you live on Fifth Street. I didn't know that, but
No,
so you're familiar.
in the neighborhood.
There's a lot of construction going on over there right now. I felt that, you know, with the 12.2 acres and 8 acres to build on, I don't know, it was 11 houses aggressive. No, that it seemed that from a plan from 2008, basically what they've done is pushed everything up closer to the road. And I attended every wetlands meeting, and the way I understood it, that anything that's in the green, none of those homeowners can put a shed there or garage or anything like that, because they're protected by the wetlands. Rightfully so. So does the remaining building lots remain suitable for 11 houses? I don't know what the rate number is. The rear lots, especially with that turnaround driveway, I'm kind of confused. I'm not quite sure if they said it was going to be paved or if it was going to be gravel. But again, I did hear who would be responsible for that, because if an emergency vehicle had to get there and it was in a snowstorm, who's doing the plowing? From the street to the corner of my property is about 200 feet. That's 400 feet of driveway, probably more than that when we do the turnaround back by the two houses. That is going to have to be maintained and accessible. So, and with those large fire engines or whatever the equipment may be, anything that's not paved could get stuck. Like I don't know. So it brings me to probably one of the major issues that I have, which is water drainage and flooding conditions. I have some pictures that I'd like to pass around that Lori has there. I had used these pictures in the wetlands meetings. These are pictures of probably over the last year and a half that I've taken, and there's also no, that's ugly wetlands. So the water that sits right next to my house, and in the wintertime, you can see the big pool of water there. Right now, it's pooled up from today's rain. There's water in there. But that'll sit there for sometimes in the spring for a couple of months filled. That's a concern, which is what I kind of thought was a vernal pool, but I'm told it's not. So the water fills there, it comes down onto my property, it runs around the back. Now, my neighbor and friend Bob D'Angelo built my house, and he put a curtain drain in and around the foundation for some of these problems to be resolved. But the groundwater gets so high in there from everything, and it's not water coming down the road, it's water coming down through the property that just flows into my property. And that the water table then becomes so high that it's got nowhere to go. So right now, about 4 or 5 months ago, I had to tear the carpet out and celebrate it. It's the second time. And it just gets so wet that I want to avoid mold. So I'll probably get water in my cellar at least once or twice a year in current conditions. So I don't know. I see that the builder is making efforts to try and resolve some of those. I don't know if I'm not an engineer, if that's going to solve the problem. But the problem exists, as you can see in the pictures, and I believe we have some videos here as well. And it will show you the magnitude of the water. And how it comes onto my property. Kind of hits my foundation, runs around the back of the house. And then goes over onto my driveway, which my driveway has an asphalt curb, which was put there purposely. So when it hits the driveway, it hits that curb and then runs back out to the road. And then it races down the rest of Field Street.
Which one do you want?
So that 122.
How about the bottom one?
You got that little. When that was taken.
I don't know the exact date. But within the last year and a half.
Was it that way today with heavy rains?
Oh, this was due to everything. Yeah,
But today it wasn't that.
not this bad. The in the woods where it originates.
I only have, because I drove by twice today, 10 and 3, and neither time there was any water on your property.
Yeah, it's still, it's sitting in where that low area is, and you can't see into there now because it's so green. I took some pictures today, just, because it does fill up again. If it rained for a day or so more like that, it would start to overfill into the property.
You want to see one of the other ones?
Yeah.
The other two are the drain, it looks like.
The drain, you
on
don't see the
East
depth of
Street.
wetlands. Water flow from the wetlands. Yeah, that's the kind of rain that you see in there, in behind that tree in the woods, that's what's filled right now. But it hasn't gotten to the point where it's gotten high enough to continue in. Couple more days of rain, it will. I know there was questions about, well, is this coming from the road? And the road is like a luge running down, and hitting those rains and just shooting up in the air. This all comes right down, I would imagine, from Fairfield Court, right through the property of all of this, down this way, and just heads downhill.
Does that go back out to the road?
When it hits my driveway, yeah, it would continue right straight across, but there's an asphalt curb on the other side of my driveway
That pushes it out
that it hits, and then it runs along the asphalt
to the road.
to the road.
Okay, thank you.
So again, when you see the magnitude of some of the problems that I'm dealing with, and this is where we want to hopefully resolve it, and maybe that when people pay. I think these houses are going to go for between $500,000 and $600,000. It's a lot of money to pay for big problems like that. So the last piece, I also have a letter from one of my neighbors who couldn't be here tonight.
You want me to read it into the record? Statement for the public hearing, dear members of the commission. My name is Gregory.
Benyes.
And my wife is Sonia Santana. We live at 196 Field Street. Unfortunately, we were unable to attend this meeting in person. We hereby authorize Mr. Tom Sullivan to speak and act on our behalf. We would like to express our serious concerns regarding the proposed residential development, road expansion, and sidewalk construction in our neighborhood. Our home is located directly within the affected area, and we are deeply concerned about the potential impact these activities may have on the safety, value, and structural integrity of our property. First, we are extremely concerned about the effects of blasting, excavation, heavy equipment, road expansion, and sidewalk construction. Our home was built in 1812, making it significantly more vulnerable to vibrations than newer homes. We are concerned about cracks in the foundation, walls, ceilings, chimney, and other structural components, as well as long-term damage that may not be immediately visible. Because of the rocky terrain in this area, our property is especially sensitive in excavation, blasting, heavy machinery, or changes in grading and drainage could cause serious structural damage. Second, our property depends on a private well and septic system. We are very concerned that construction activities could negatively affect our well by reducing water quality or water yield, or by causing underground fractures that disrupt the groundwater supply. We are also concerned about the stability and proper functioning of our septic system. Any damage to these essential systems could create serious health risks and impose a significant financial burden on our family. Third, moving the roadway closer to our property significantly increases both safety risks and potential for structural damage. Vehicles already travel at high speeds on this road. Bringing the roadway even closer to our home increases the risk to our family's safety, reduces our quality of life, and exposes our property to additional noise, vibration, and potential damage. In the light of these concerns, we respectfully request the following: a comprehensive pre-construction and pre-blast inspection of our home, including detailed photographs and written documentation of its current condition, continuous vibration monitoring throughout all blasting operations, with the monitoring results made publicly available, baseline water quality and yield testing of our private well before construction begins, followed by additional testing after blasting and major construction activities are completed. Advance written notice of all blasting, excavation, road work, and major construction activities, including sidewalk construction. Clear written information regarding liability, insurance coverage, and the claims process in the event our home, well, septic system, or other property is damaged. We understand that development can be important for the community, and we are not opposed to responsible growth. However, we respectfully ask that the town and the developer to take every reasonable precaution to protect existing homes, private wells, septic systems, and the safety and well-being of the residents who already live here. Thank you for your time, attention, and thoughtful consideration of our concerns. Respectfully, Sonia Santana and
We call him G.
G. 196 Field Street.
Gary, this is,
Gary.
he's Hungarian.
Okay. And I had one other letter, one sure.
Okay, for G and Sonia, again, you heard their concerns, but their house was built in 1812 or thereabouts. And it's the old, that's Anderson's house. And it was built back then. I don't know if the road was there at the time, so I doubt it. But I know that in having conversation with John Gasper, who was a former fire chief in town, and a friend of mine, we had extensive conversations how down here, before the road was built, was a little turnaround for the horses and carriages. And he was alive and saw this road being put in. And the reason why it grades up is because he said it was all ledge underneath. So I'd like to say there's going to be no blasting. I really hope that I'm right. Okay, but anybody that put a shovel in the dirt in Naugatuck knows you start to shake as soon as I hear I got to dig a hole. So blasting is going to be obviously a major concern for the water lines and sewer lines going up through there. That's all that I have, and thank you for your time.
You.
My name is Jim O'Donnell. I live on Allerton Road. I'm also a standing member of the Borough's Conservation Commission. And while we acknowledge that the applicant has no responsibility to present to our commission a copy of the application, it would be beneficial to us, we think, to have an opportunity to review it, see what kind of input we might have. It's probably, speak for everyone, if I have a chance to sit down with everybody, but it's probably unlikely we're going to be amenable to a waiver on open space. And we would like to request that at least a member of our committee be allowed to participate in the site walk. There are 4 major concerns that I have as a member of the public, not as a member of the commission. The first is traffic, and I think the points were eloquently made. My family's lived off of Field Street for over 50 years. I've seen stop signs go up the intersection of Field Street, Conrad, Field Street, Mill. There are probably, in the last year and a half, at least a dozen signs have been put up warning and reducing speed limits to 15 miles. Because we've had a recurrent problem of houses being struck by vehicles, which is a bit disconcerting. It's a big sweeping curve, and I think we do need to take a look at it from a traffic standpoint. My primary concern is probably flooding. Now, I've looked at maps, I've looked at the wetlands, and I've seen that the state of Connecticut's map is a little bit different than the map that I'm looking at right now. And I realize that the boundaries are fluid, part of the pond, they go in and out over time. And this whole area is adjacent to what is recognized in the borough's hazard plan as a floodplain. Now, the borough states that the risk of flood, we're talking just a few meters in this direction, is probably a 1 in 200 year event. Well, we have to take into consideration the possibility of change due to climate change. And if we have a situation where we are now in a 1 in 50 year possibility of a flood, that's a big difference. It means that all the structures that are being built are likely to be impacted by flood. So we've got to look at it through that lens. Naugatuck is a member of the Naugatuck Valley Council of Governments, and I know that Naugatuck is pledged to look at all the decisions that it makes through the lens of climate change and how this could possibly make a difference. The second thing is that there's hundreds, if not thousands, of trees. Now, a single mature tree can hold up to 500 gallons of water. Do some quick math on the back of an envelope. You take out 1,000 trees here. You now have the water equivalent to an Olympic-sized swimming pool. I don't see how that can fail to expand the area of the wetlands. If I have 60,000 extra gallons of water here, or more specifically, the inability to absorb 60,000 gallons of water in that area. So these are some things we're going to need to think about. We don't know how many trees are going to be taken down. I'd like to have at least an estimate because we can't evaluate the impact of tree removal until we know how many trees are going to be. So if there is a site walk, I think we'd like to try to get a ballpark idea of how impactful that's going to be. The other issue I have is regarding pollution. Pollution is not just necessarily the noise that's created at the time of construction, the disruption that occurs there, but it also is the noise that happens afterwards when you've got people living in that space. And that pollution may not necessarily be what we traditionally think of, but it could be light pollution, or it could be noise pollution. So I think we need to take a look at the impact there. The area is an ecosystem. And for those that aren't familiar with it, ecosystem is generally defined as a biological community of interacting organisms in their physical environment. Probably the best way to think about an ecosystem is a Jenga tower. You guys remember that game that we used to have? Stack it up real high and it looks real solid, but then you got to pull 1 or 2 pieces out. Problem with an ecosystem is if you take out just 1 or 2 pieces, the entire thing collapses in itself. It just does this. Because if you take out the organisms, you hurt the things that depend upon those organisms for food. And it goes all the way up the chain. And I don't see how you can remove 1,000 trees, forgetting about the flooding impact, but how are you going to affect the wildlife in that area and the entire ecosystem chain? So I think we need to take a look at it. These guys have a lot of money and they've got a lot of time and resources, and they come to us with some really good plans. Unfortunately, as members of the public, we don't have those resources available to us. But perhaps the Conservation Committee or perhaps the Naugatuck Valley Council of Government can give us some input on this. I'd like to see what they think about a proposal like this. I'll end with a really quick story. Sometimes, and I'm guilty of this more than anybody probably, we spend a lot of the time with our heads stuck in our phones devices, and we don't get out and appreciate all the things around us. And it's the great thing about living in New England is you'll see these leaves change. You'll see the constant evolution. It's the cycle of the spring. So great. And one thing that happened to me in that area when I was at Farmers Pond, this was probably just pre-COVID. I went in April. This was before the leaves were on the trees. And I saw something coming out of the sky. It was huge. It was black. It was phenomenal. It was cacophonous. It was making all sorts of noises, tweets, and mechanical sounds. It was a flock of red-winged blackbirds, and they were in migration. Now, if you've seen this happen before, you know it's a pretty cool thing. And what they did is they roosted in all of these trees in this wetlands. And they went there because they could get food and because it was a safe place to be and protect them from predators. It's probably an ancient migratory route. I don't know. I'm not an ornithologist, but I'm sure that they've come through here from time to time, probably over the centuries. So what happens when you start taking this out? We don't know. So I would like you to think about all those things. Appreciate your time. Have a good.
Is anyone signing? For the guy behind you? Thanks.
Good evening. My name is Steve Hebb. I live at 245 Field Street. I've been there for the last 30 years. I've been a resident for this town for 53 years. I'm also a retired firefighter for 23 years. I have a prepared statement, and if you don't mind, I'd like to read it. Good evening. My name is Stephen Hebb. I reside at 245 Field Street and have since 1996. In the past 16 years, we've had someone else's unauthorized vehicle drive through our front yard or our backyard 6 times. The first of these is in April of 2011. A driver under the influence drove through our front yard, clipping our front steps with their vehicle and proceeded to strike the corner of our neighbor's home, knocking it off its foundation, displacing them for 8 months. In the summer of 2015, another under the influence driver drove through the front yard to 261 Field Street, causing the car to go airborne and land in a row of bushes that separated our front yards. This driver, without his front wheels on the ground, continued to rev his engine, attempting to flee until someone got in the front seat and removed the keys from the ignition. 3 other incidents were minor in nature, meaning they drove through the whole front yard but made it back out without the danger that they made it back throughout without hitting a tree or our house or our vehicles. But being minor does not take away the danger that every single one of these incidents puts our family in on this side of Field Street. The last and most recent accident, and the one that has cost our family the most financially and mentally, happened on February of 2024. A teenage driver who stated she was trying to end her life drove through the front yard of our neighbor at 261 Field Street at such a high rate of speed that she launched her car, clearing their whole driveway, and landed 10 feet into our side of the yard. She proceeded to go out of control, missing the back corner of our home by 24 inches, and drove into the backyard, striking our half-frozen swimming pool. An estimated 8,000 gallons of water washed out our leach fields in the backyard and ripped the end and the sidewalls off the pool. My wife and children were home at the time, while I worked at the 911 dispatch center in Waterbury. By some miracle, the driver was not physically hurt, but my wife had to restrain her in our side yard because she was stating that she was just needed to be hit by an oncoming car. The repairs to our pool and backyard would not be finally completed until October of 2025 due to their extensive damage to our leaching fields. Field Street is already used as a cut through from Rubber Avenue to Route 63 by many drivers. The posted speed limits are merely a suggestion, and the stop sign is barely seen as a yield sign. Adding more houses and driveways to an already badly maneuvered corner is asking for more damage, more injuries, and possibly worse. Drivers coming out of Fairfield Court have to inch their way out onto Field Street because even though a vehicle should have stopped at the stop sign at Quinn Street, mid-hill, They're already doing 40 miles an hour by the time they get to Fairfield Court and approaching the corner that so many find difficult to stay on. We invite the Naugatuck Police to set up shop in our driveway to gauge the level of disregard to the posted speed limits and stop signs. When Fairfield Court was built, it changed the water table in the area and raised the water levels, causing flooding in my basement in 3 different locations. This required me to put a basement dewatering system in. I can't speak for my neighbors around me, but I believe they have the same problems. When I first bought the property, I asked why the sewer system had stopped at the corner of King and Field Street and started back up at Mill and Field Street. It was explained to me that it was because the rock ledge that existed was hard to get through. If it exists here, it means there will need to be more extensive fill and rocks to be removed in order to accommodate new foundations, new sewers, new waterways. This means altering the water table again. And what disasters does that hold for the residents at on Field Street? I've spent more than 30 years at this residence and been a resident in Naugatuck for 53 years. Just because the plans seem effective to the property owner, it does not mean it's something that is viable for Naugatuck. With increased traffic, unreasonable use of the road, the safety of the current community should be considered, as well as reasonable person that uses that current roadway. I appreciate you letting me read this. I also want to add in that in my 23 years, I did multiple accidents on Field Street. People not paying attention to curves, speeds. So that would be one of my other concerns. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Copy of that, or do you?
I have to give this. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Sheila Walmer, and I live at 211 Field Street. So I'm on the corner of Field and Mill, the brown house with the red button. And we've been there since 1982, so I think we win the lottery of long serving neighbors. Excuse me, Sheila. Yep. Click with my. Yep. There you go. We are across from lots 3 and 4. And we can attest to many of the things that everyone has said, so you have to indulge me to say some of the things again. I don't think many people come to you and say, I've lived in my house for years and years, and there's woods across the street, and I love watching the animals come across the road, and the deer and the fox and the bobcat and such, and I hope you can build some houses over there, so they won't come across the street and you'll see. I don't think you get that too much, and we don't necessarily object to well-built and well-placed houses, but a lot of the things in the plans just don't seem to be making sense to myself and some of the neighbors. Our primary problems at our home is the traffic and the blasting potential. Our house is also old. It's something like 1870. I'm not quite sure exact. But we have the stacked stone foundation, old house, very vulnerable. Thank goodness we do not get water issues. That's one of our good things. Accidents. Steve had already told you some of the accidents. In 1982, when we first moved in the middle of the winter, it was a bang. Always starts with a bang. 3 older ladies drove up Field Street, and at that time there was only the stop sign at Mill Street, so I will mention that. And they hit our wall. 2 of them passed away. The one in the backseat made it. With our introduction to Field Street. In the mid-80s, a car drove up Field Street. I think the stop sign was in place at that time. It somehow missed big trees that were in the front yard. Did not hit the house by foot and a half. The fellow got out and decided he was going to walk home. So when the cops got there, they had to find him walking up the hill. Obviously, he was intoxicated. No idea how he didn't hit the front porch. A van came down the road. there's a little bit of a bank across the street from us. Went up on the bank, flipped his van, also intoxicated, he fell out of his car and rolled down the hill when the cops got there. Car coming up Field Street, hit the silver maple that used to be behind the fire hydrant, that's on my side of the street on the corner of Mill and Field. Flipped his car to his side, also probably intoxicated, not sure about that one. Multiple cars coming down the hill. The house up on the corner of Field and King, 261, launch off of that retaining wall in their driveway. It's been happening for years. Previous owners, current owners, I'm sure, had a couple get hung up halfway down so that, the front ends in the driveway and the rear ends up on the retaining wall. The swimming pool, the house hit next door, the house hit down the street. Just a month ago, we had a little tree growing behind the fire hydrant where the old silver maple used to be. And we wake up in the morning and the tree's not snapped in half. Someone's banged into the side of the little bit of a hill before our driveway. Yeah, did not hear that one, but those are only the ones I can remember. You can't even recall, people have hit our wall a bunch of times. So when our kids were little, nobody lets their children play in the front yard. You have to be in the back. We don't let the granddaughters play in the front yard. It's too dangerous. They don't stop at the stop sign. I'd love to have all of you come sit in my driveway and watch the cars fight. Because when you're coming from any of the three streets, you can see if there's anybody at the stop signs. And if there isn't, they, who needs to stop when there's no one there? If there are people there, they'll slow down. Sometimes they stop. It's the concerns for the new houses. Obviously, more people trying to pull out or back out, hopefully pull out, causes concern and issues for the people that might buy these houses. Lot number 1, which is up on the corner of Fairfield Court, as it was already mentioned, it's really hard to see up the hill and the cars are coming really fast down there. So that first lot on the little triangular plot, I think is going to have a really hard time pulling out. On the other side, lot number 6, the sight line. So lot number 6 is on the other side of the old mill house. So this one, and that one looking backwards to try to pull out is going to have a hard time seeing. I'm sorry, yep, and this one is going to have a hard time at the corner, lot number 5, because if you're at that corner, if the person stopped like they're supposed to at the stop sign, it would be fine, because you'd be able to see them and pull out. But they don't stop. We keep saying that, but it's true. So they're going to have a hard time on that one. Again, it's number 5. Because even, trees are gone, they have a better sight line, but the cars are coming too fast and they're going to be in danger of pulling out and getting hit. You can't have company more than 4 cars because you can't park on the road. No one ever parks on the road. People park in our backyard on the grass. So those houses, there's, I don't know how many cars there's room for in the driveways, but that's going to be an issue. I don't know. Again, we're repeating ourselves. I don't know what the answer is. I've heard the term traffic calming. I don't know, speed bumps, cameras, signs, the sign that says you're going too fast. That's been up there. I don't remember exactly when, but it doesn't sink in. So our traffic concerns are valid, and this would add to it. Maybe less houses would help, and less or better visuals on some of the driveways. But I guess the speed of people is something for the police. But our other big concern is blasting, and I know that they don't want to blast. I'm sure it's very expensive. But we've heard the same thing that you just heard. I used to work at the Public Works, and the former general foreman was working on Field Street when they took the better part of our front yard, way before we were there, back in the, you think the 60s, 1960. They needed to widen the road, and instead of widening it from the other side where there was no, you know, it was just dead, well, it was farmland, I think at that point. They took the front yard, which is why we got a stone wall, because the ledge was there and they didn't want to have to blast. If they're going to put sewer lines through, they're going to have to blast. And Old House, very, very concerned about blasting. We want to make sure that we are able to get the pre-blast survey and all the things that our neighbor wrote to you in that letter. That just says it all, you know, about the concerns of old houses, any houses. It doesn't have to be an old house, because we're a mixed neighborhood of old and new. Across the street, I think we have a couple of pictures. Would you get the pictures from Steve? On the plans, it cites a large rock. And we can see it from the house, and my husband had taken pictures back when in the winter with no leaves. What's under the rock? I see that on the plans, they've got that driveway pushed all the way to the edge of the property so that they can avoid it. Clearly, that's a concern. I don't know if the rock is, they're planning on having it stay there or working around it. Just a couple of weeks ago, the flail mower came by to cut the brush on Field Street. And we noticed that the blades had caught the edge of rock outcropping that are coming out almost virtually in front of where that large rock is. The large rock is a bit in, and the outcropping is on the edge. So that's a picture. I know it doesn't look like much, but it's the rock sticking out of the dirt. So if you walked from there, right. This is I think, no, there's a rock. Somewhere back here is a telephone pole. And if you keep walking into the woods, you'll see the giant rock, which is the next, there's another picture of so the thought is, and we don't know, and I'm sure, you know, they don't know unless they've done test borings, which I don't believe they have. But I'm not sure about that either. There's the giant rock.
I just want to share it so people
Yeah,
hope
it's
to
just
see it.
assume that that's part of that ledge that we're being told about, and that Steve had also mentioned. It's pretty big. It's, you know, I don't know, and that's quite a grade going up. So I don't know if those driveways have to cut through that bank or they're going to go up and over it. But obviously that's the, you know, looking from our house, and that's the road, and you'll see when you do your sidewalk how high it is off the road. So that rock is, I don't know, 9-10 feet tall. It's actually in a couple of pieces. So anyway, that's our concern about blasting. We want to make sure if they have to blast, if they do indeed, you know, go through with this, we're all protected, not just ours, but all. Couple other concerns. Actually, you all mentioned some of these. The concrete galleys. I'm, you know, it's great to put them in, but who is going to actually get down there and clean them? And how do you clean them? And how does the homeowner know how to clean them? And how often are they going to do it? And you know, I guess they're pretty big, so it takes a while to fill them up, but it can happen or they could fail. The gravel emergency access road, how much of that are the homeowners responsible to keep clean and clear? Where they cut across on the grass, is that, what if I put a fence up and I didn't know that it was a fire truck? I guess the fire truck would run right through the fence. Lot number 5, which is this right at the corner, the water company has some sort of a access box. I'm not sure what they do, but they're there quite often. They get up on they drive right up on the curb. They've got it cleared, and I don't know what is that staying there, or will that have to be moved? Will the water company have to move that? Who's responsible for that? Does the developer have to pay for that moving, or does it stay there and the homeowner just lets the water company come up and drive up on their lawn and take care of that box every 2-3 months? And the sidewalks, that's the one great thing about this. We need sidewalks so badly, but we need it to go the whole way. It doesn't help for the people to have, I don't know if some of you, if you've driven up and down Field Street, people walk up on the side where the poison ivy is on this side of the road. they walk up on our front lawn, they walk up on our neighbor's lawn, which that's okay because the road is so narrow, it's dangerous to walk on the road. And sidewalks would be the one great thing that would happen with this, but they have to go the whole way. The one part that worries me is in front of the mill house. When you go there, you'll see how close that is to the road, and I think 30 feet is the proper distance from the house to the road, is that correct? And I don't know how far that house is, but it's really close, and I think that if you take half of their front yard and then, put the sidewalk in to widen the road, you're ending up making their house basically illegal and creating more hazards. Besides shortening up their front yard so they're practically in the street. In spite of all our complaints about traffic, it is a nice area to live. It's a nice mix of old and new houses. And if a development is done, it would be great to see it done with more thought or more, maybe less houses, a little more spread out. Put the driveways a little more thoughtfully so they aren't in quite such hazardous areas. And just, keep the neighborhood as nice as it is a nice place to live. So thank you so much for your time and let me share my thoughts.
Thank you.
Person on the
Yeah,
line.
I didn't, anybody else, there's, Melissa Leonard is online, so you can go to attendees and just allow to speak. Melissa, you're up.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, good. I thank you for having the public hearing. Amazing to hear the stories about the accidents on that road. It sounds like we might need a DUI initiative in this town, unfortunately. I'm going to refer to the plan of conservation. Melissa Leonard, Guntown Road. I'm also a member of the Conservation Commission. Speaking for myself only, I'm going to refer to the plan of conservation and development, which is supposed to be used as an advisory document for the planning and zoning commissions. All town boards and commissions should refer to it on an ongoing basis when decisions are being made about development applications. That's stated in the plan. Also stated, smart growth focuses on quality of life and economic stability for everyone today, which is sustainable into the future. One of the principles it relies on is to preserve valued community, natural, biological, and historical resources while growing the economy. Single-family homes generally don't contribute to the economy. They cost the town more money than they bring in taxes through services, including education, street lighting, street maintenance, emergency services, and refuse collection. The land use strategies portion on page 22 of the plan, number 2, is to proactively preserve and protect natural, historical, and biological resources. The biological resources on this property include water and carbon-absorbing foliage, in other words, wetlands, and a stream. The plan may be to put houses, garages, and driveways outside the wetlands, but all of those will negatively affect the wetlands. And once people occupy these houses, there's still a possibility of even more impact by grading the property and installing sheds and patios and pools, etc. Page 30 of our plan, guiding policy to preserve existing open space, protect sensitive natural resources, and expand access to recreational opportunities. Throughout our zoning and regulations and plan of conservation and development, there's repeated reference to preservation of the environment and natural resources. Personally, I think ideally this development should not happen on such a small parcel with so much wetlands. However, if it is still to be considered, Section 35 of our zoning regulations say that the Planning Commission may approve an open space subdivision to permit establishment of an open space subdivision plan if it finds that the plan will accomplish one or more of the following purposes: preserving land as unsubdivided and undeveloped open space which preserves or enhances the appearance, character, and natural beauty of an area, preserve land for purposes of conserving natural resources, and to protect streams, rivers, and ponds so as to avoid flooding, erosion, and water pollution, which in this case, I think it would absolutely do. So, in other words, if you allow the development to go through, could that portion that's in the dark green be preserved as open space for the town to take over, or an organization such as a land trust or some other nonprofit land preserving type of group? Does this plan, in accordance with section 42.1.3, require excavation, fill, and regrading to preserve the natural vegetation and growth for the purpose of preventing erosion by the wind or water, and to protect historic factors such as stone walls and archaeological artifacts for the purpose of preserving our heritage on premises situated within the borough? All things I hope you will consider before you approve this plan. And please, if a traffic study hasn't been done, please require it. And also consider making that an open space, that dark green area behind the houses, so that none of that additional building or impact on the wetlands would happen. Thank you.
Christine, I have this letter you submitted. Were you gonna read that? Christine?
Melissa.
Oh, Melissa. Oh, never mind. Christine's not on, I don't think anymore. Christine's there. Christine, are you gonna speak to the letter you submitted? Down right here, you know, like, go down, I pack the patch. See, the IV or IY, whatever it says. Middle of the page, 230, yeah, right there. Christine, are you gonna speak?
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Oh, well, okay. Good evening, everyone. My name is Christine Yanelli, and I'm a Conservation Commissioner, co-chair. And I really appreciated the comments of my fellow Commissioner Jim O'Donnell about climate change and the definition for an ecosystem and trees and their function. It was very informative, important, and essential to understand. And with Melissa, I enjoyed hearing about the biological resources, referring to the document of conservation and planning. And I would suggest to everyone that they read the Plan of Conservation and Development 2023. We worked hard on it. So I'm taking this opportunity to speak about Zero Field Street and sharing my description of this area, since I live in this neighborhood and I walk around this neighborhood. Zero Field Street woodland ecosystem is part of a 6 interconnecting corridor. Thousands of trees, sensitive ground covers create this forested area. The trees growing on Zero Field Street make the bird songs that we hear around us melodious, staccato, rhythmic as we walk this wooded passageway. Trees shape our world around us as we take in woodland sounds. They put carbon into the soil for microbes to feed on, including obligate microbes that feed only on microbes associated with a particular tree species. The trees harbor native insects that feed on and pollinate these trees. Birds find shelter, nesting places, and the particular kinds of insects they eat. These birds create the familiar music of these woods and the backyards around us. That sound, loved by so many of us, is threatened whenever a tree species is threatened. Example, snags. These are dead trees without tops. Dead trees lying on the ground are important for replenishing soil. And these snags and dead decaying trees or trunks of trees are homes to owls, raccoons, bobcats, foxes, pollinators, a variety of birds and wildlife. Packing down the ground for development changes the environment here, and the ground becomes hardened and not porous. This results in water runoff into roads, backyards with or without drainage. The YMCA put in a road into a proposed summer camp, but now is being used by dirt bikes, causing damage, soil erosion, disrupting wildlife habitat loss, plants, and sensitive ground covers. In 2019, the Naugatuck Conservation Commission worked with the Public Works, setting up monofilament receptacles at Bombers Pond, Linden Park, and Breens Field. Walking around Bombers Pond during the fishing derby gave us a view of the many ways this park gets involved with the community of Naugatuck, the way its citizens utilize Bombers area. What does this have to do with Zero Field Street? Plenty. Whatever development happens here affects the bird life, fish life, wildlife, and quality of life for Naugatuck's citizens using the contiguous linkages, corridors to the Naugatuck River, to the Greenway Riverwalk. I've lived in this area at Zero Field Street for 37 years. So now I would like to just, oh my goodness, wait a minute. I'd like to read my little presentation. As I had mentioned, I walk around Bombers Pond and I have the opportunity to watch various bird species, kingfishers, wood ducks, grackles, nuthatches, titmice, catbirds, green blue herons, pose along the banks and congregate in trees at Bombers Pond. Wildlife, bird life, and civilian life depend on these swaths of treed lands. There are 6 interconnecting corridors near Zero Field Street, used daily by wildlife passing through habitats, birds nesting, pathway linkages for walkers and hikers, and bountiful land to do these activities. These wooded areas are the Larkin State Park Trail, Zero Field Street, Bombers Pond, Lower Park Avenue, and Hillside Avenue wooded areas, Naugatuck River Greenway Trail, and Whittemore Glen State Park Scenic Reserve. These pathways and linkages help support and create recreational access to the Naugatuck River and other public recreational facilities. This type of strategy to plan and construct recreational trail linkages is found in the document of Naugatuck Conservation and Development 2023 and needs to be recommended, planned, and constructed, found under open space and recreation actions. Also, collaboration with the Connecticut Parks and Forest Association to promote passive recreation on state forest land and to promote passive and active recreation on municipally owned land needs to be understood. All the trees and vegetation in these areas, plus wildlife, bird life, and citizens, are part of how the town of Naugatuck views itself. They are sewn into the threads of Naugatuck's character, its rhythm, its daily life, part of its identity. Their movements create life on Zero Field Street because of the linkage to the woods in these 6 areas. The trees and woodlands in Phase 6 in these 6 areas reflect the health of Naugatuck and its river. The quality of life needs to be protected and preserved. We should be very concerned about the interrelationship between wildlife and land, especially when housing development affects wetlands and wooded areas. Something different happens when there is loss, displacement, and irreplacement of corridors or linkages for wildlife and citizens to pass through. There are less sightings, less bird songs, less hikers, and missing wildlife, and there is a shift that something is off. Recognition of these changes and observations of differences before and after needs to be studied by bird organizations such as Audubon, Connecticut Western Bird Club, Cornell Ornithological Department, biologists, DEEP, Wildlife Department, citizen scientists, nature-loving individuals, and more. This helps to recognize these changes and happenings to help protect and preserve these changes and quality of life, especially at 0 Field Street and the other 5 linkages before it is in crisis. So I say, no active development at 0 Field Street. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
One else raising their hand.
Are there any other comments from the public?
Plans of sign.
Yes.
Thank you. I'll be quick. My neighbors and residents that have already spoken have already addressed some of my major concerns. I live at 237 Field Street. I was the house in April 2011 that a drunk driver slammed into the foundation of my house, shifted the sill, and displaced my family with 2 young kids to a rental in Quinn Street while the house was being rebuilt. It's an amazing neighborhood. I have wonderful neighbors. I love where I live. I just ask that this building be really thought carefully through, and I trust the people in front of me to consider all of the points that have been brought up today. The traffic is frightening. The water has seeped into my basement. I've seen that happen, and repeatedly for many of our neighbors. And so I would just like for the same concerns that everybody brought up to be considered on the card as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else?
Hi, Eileen Bronco, 34 Fairfield Court. And I thought I would speak on behalf of 34 Fairfield Court and the issues of water. I believe I was told that the wetlands stayed the same all of these years. And I find that very impossible with Fairfield Court being put in and all the trees and everything taken down there. Living at Fairfield Court, most of the neighbors have had significant water issues. And I think that part of what people were saying is we understand the water issues and we don't want new people to have to deal with water issues. In any rain, I have water pouring down my driveway. And we had to put drains in, multiple drains. So there is water that goes out into the wetlands. My property borders that property, 34, I'm not sure where it is here, but
It's right there, the bottom, there's a right up. There's no other way, no, okay, right there, the name. Right, on the bottom, right there.
oh, here. So we border many properties actually on the Quinn Street area, East Drive. So we have a wide swath of land bordering that property. And the water that pours down our driveway on a regular basis pours obviously in because it's all going downhill. And I think that's with Fairfield Court, it just washes down. So cutting trees does make a difference. And many of the homeowners on Fairfield Court, one neighbor next to me has had so many issues with their foundation cracking. Yearly, they have things that they're doing. There's springs that are just pouring onto Fairfield Court. I'm sure probably onto the property in question, and certainly my property and other properties on Fairfield Court, same thing, with water rushing down. So I find it hard to believe if it was said that the wetlands hasn't changed. Once that Fairfield development happened, it had to have changed and expanded. And again, all of us still have water issues that were never taken care of. So we don't want new property owners to experience the same thing again, because the water's washing downhill. And I don't know where all the springs are coming from. Even the neighbors think they know where it is, but they don't. So this property, and again, you've heard from many people that we want the property to be developed. If you own a property, you should be able to develop your property, but we want it to be done right and well. This particular property is a tough one because of the wetlands, not only the wetlands that are there, but the water that keeps coming down the hill, that will affect that area too. Is that enough to deal with the water that goes there? I don't think so. I'm not an engineer, but I know how it runs down my driveway. And if these driveways are coming down off the road, it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. Plus, where is all the water gonna go when the trees are cut? I do believe that you should keep the open space, keep the sidewalks, even though that's gonna cause a lot of problems for the homeowners that live here now. I'm not sure what the answer is for that. I'm not sure what the answers are for some of these. Less houses seem to make a lot of sense. And blasting. People are talking about wanting the pre-blasting survey and everything. So can we get the borings? I think that everybody that lives here and has been here for a long time knows about all the ledge over there. So it needs test borings because you're not going to be able to blast, or you'll blast and it could cause a lot of problems, or a significant amount of blasting that has to happen. And you already heard from G's property and the Bromers property, they're old houses. So again, people don't want this to not happen, but how is it going to be responsible? And in character of the neighborhood too. I would say also for the wetlands and the wildlife, I guess we could just build where we want to build, and wildlife has to just go somewhere. But I think we heard reasons why we need to protect corridors for wildlife. In my house, my property, I have regular barred owls. We've had the bobcats. The birds are so many. We've had the bear, and I'm not saying that I really like some of those animals, but I understand their right to live, and I mean the wetlands, they get what they need from that. The foxes and the deer, of course, always, but we always see the new births too around our neighborhood because they go there. So I don't know how we protect that, put the houses in. I'm not sure how to do that. That would be your job. But I, like everybody else, appreciate your consideration. I'm a little disappointed that neighbors can't go on the site visit. In the old days, if the commission went, the neighbors went too. So I'm not sure what the issue with neighbors going. But to be honest with you, I think we kind of even know everything that's going on there anyway. But I would ask for test borings, not approval of something, and then they can, see if there's blasting needed. Then it's already approved. And that's not really fair to the neighbors. The traffic, everybody knows about the traffic. And also going at the sight line coming out of the Fairfield Court, same thing somebody said about you kind of inch your ways out of there and try to catch before a car comes flying down Field Street. That does happen. And I think that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, no, not him again. I just real quick wanted to make one point that as I've been listening. My house is the last house on the line for water and sewer, stops right there. So that line will have to go in from here all the way up to here. I don't know if they have anything to attach to here, but this is where it would have to be attached. So, I mean, that's a good length, and the reason why that road grades up. It's high, the road is higher than in here where these houses are gonna go. So I don't know how, if you have to lift the grading in here. Or you're gonna have to dig down into that road pretty deep to put these lines. But it's probably, I would say at least 6-7 feet. But that's all I would add. Thanks. Oh, there's one thing.
3 things.
It's a surprise. And I think the reason why a lot of us are all concerned about the blasting, in 2019, about 600 feet from my house, down here, they put 2 houses, they had to blast through the rocks. And Naugatuck was on the 6 p.m. news because they put in a hot load and sent mats and everything and boulders flying across the street. And so I think people are a little on edge about any blasting over. Thanks. There goes something. Yeah.
Anyone else? Anyone on Zoom?
Going on.
Nope.
There is nothing else.
I just want to make one mention, when Melissa Leonard talked about an open space subdivision, this doesn't qualify. Doesn't have 25 plus acres, also it's R15, not R30, 45. Good.
If I could just say a couple of words. My name is David Oakfield from Total Construction. And I understand, I listened to all the neighbors and I understand their concerns 100%. And we would try to, obviously be good neighbors, do the right thing and make the situation better. I listened to, the traffic, the accidents that happened. And it seems like most of the accidents were from intoxicated drivers. Now, that's something that's probably out of our control. But one of the things that I'm thinking is possibly putting in, berms, speed bumps in strategic areas, especially, down low where it might be next to a knoll. People have to slow down to do that. And then, of course, getting the police department involved a little bit, maybe, put some cruisers there for a little while, get that straightened. The driveways are situated so that we don't anticipate, and if I'm living there, I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't anticipate anybody backing out into the road. They're big enough so that they can turn around and drive out so that they have more of better sight coming out of that driveway. Like I said, we're trying to make the situation when we leave better than it is now. We understand their concerns, and with the galleys and so on that we will be providing to capture some of this water. They're not difficult to maintain. It's something similar to somebody having a septic tank. They can get those people once a year, once every other year, to come and check it, whatever needs to be done, be cleaned up. So it's not a big deal. If you have a septic tank, you know what I'm talking about. So I just wanted to say that we're not here to make anybody's life more miserable. We're here to try to be a good neighbor and make things better. That's all I gotta say.
Anyone else?
I actually have one thing. Bob mentioned that the water table or the water line couldn't be deeded, but it should be disclosed that they wouldn't be able to build off their house for a deck. It's not necessarily a deeded issue, but a disclosure.
Okay, what did you say, no debt?
I'm sorry. I said, no,
Did you say-
it should be,
Go ahead.
Bob mentioned that the water line should be deeded, and you said it couldn't do that, but it should, at minimum, should be, disclosed to the clients who are actually trying to buy these houses. That they couldn't build off their deck, you know what I mean?
You can't build a deck behind the house.
Right.
They have to come for a permit, and with the permit, they have to get it in the deed.
Is what he said.
No, I understand that, but that's one of those things where you buy a house and say, oh, we can put a deck here, and then you get to the house and they say, no, you can't do that. You know, if we know it ahead of time, it should be something that's disclosed, in my opinion.
The thing is, an upland review area is not a area that you cannot build in. As long as it's not. Growing wetlands or interfering with the wetlands, the water course.
That's what I'm saying, it is the wetlands. Well, I understand, right?
The wetlands, they're 100 feet out of the 100-foot, they're out of the upland review area on almost every house. There's a few that are maybe touching the back.
That's what I
do
was saying.
permits all the time for pools, decks, sheds in upland review areas.
Okay.
That's something we do quite often. We go out and look at the property. I mean, if you're on the edge of a brook, we wouldn't do it, but most of them are, it's already lawn, it's all grass. It's already been disturbed.
If there's nothing else, anything else from the commission? If not, I'll continue this hearing until our September meeting with the.
It's actually the 14th.
14th. That's 6:05. We don't have to sit in the one.
Yeah.
Thank you all.
Yeah.
Good luck. And you're gonna be.
Gabo or the auto service? Bill Gabo or auto service?
I'm with the pre-engineer, with the civil engineer.
No.
What's that? Where is that again? It's across from. Which one? It's across. Yeah, it's across the street. Mountain. Okay, all right. Oh, okay. So we're done selling gravel now.
This
is finally.
I think Jim Dickens.
Okay, moving on. New business item A. The commission discussion and decision regarding the referral from the zoning commission. For a retail bar repair facility. The property located at 856 New Haven Road. Applicant Joe Zarembro.
Yes, Justin, Bruce was around, who was online, I think he may still be online. Gonna be listening in, Joe Duhamel from the pre-engineering is here, he's the engineer on the project. I'm Kevin McCary, 38 Fairview Avenue, North Connecticut, a lawyer on the project. Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, good to see everyone. And this project is going to develop 3 parcels on New Haven Road. It's going to end up being a Firestone Complete Auto Care facility, which is kind of nice when you think about it. It's good that Harvey Firestone started his company back in the early 1900s and moved it to Akron, Ohio, which we're trying to claim the name was Rubber City, but we know we are the Rubber City. The parcel 6.04 acres. Project is up on the roadway, closer to the road, Route 63. We think we're going to add about 8 to 12 employees. And we think the application meets the requirements of Planet Conservation Development. You know, I kind of, when you go through it, you think about what you guys were thinking about when you wrote it, and specifically for the Haven Road, and it was very prescient of all you. I think you did a nice job. Place development on page 3, where there is existing water, sewer, roads, and infrastructure before expanding infrastructure. So Haven Road being a great spot. We think this is a great spot for us to place our building. Place priority on reuse of previously developed sites. Now, this site was it's currently owned by Dean Rotatori, and he has auto car business there. In fact, the last car my father bought, we got through Dean back in a while ago. So the cars and vehicles were sold there, and there were repairs done in the back of another parcel just next to it. And then we have the larger sites along the Haven Road that we expect to have filler sites like this fill out and do things like that. We think right away of Peter Falk. That's a huge site. But these smaller sites get filled up and with nice businesses. Now, the Firestone business, Zaramba Group is going to build the property, and Firestone is going to be their tenant. Now, Firestone has 950 locations across the country. They employ thousands of technicians, and they're an organization. When you go by their buildings that my client builds, they're beautiful. I went by the one up in Glastonbury. It fits in. It does a nice job, and all the work is done inside the building. Typical of a car repair place. You park your car outside, they bring it in, then they get the work done, and you're on your way. Planet Conservation Development also talks about treating that area down there as a tax district. You know, we're trying to increase any kind of business in our area. And I think we have a strategy of how the tax financing districts work and make things happen. And also part is to encourage sustainable economic growth and foster new jobs, which this business does, and recruit new businesses. There's another new business coming in. I think that, you know, all in all, the project adds jobs, does the things that Planet Conservation calls for. And I think when we talk about the plan, I mean, Joe's going to address some of those issues. You'll find that the project works really well. It's an excellently designed. And to be honest with you, never had so much engineering information when the application is arrived. It's got everything in there from graphic studies to stormwater management and design. So I'll turn it over to Joe, and I'll be here for questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, Joe Duhamel with the project manager at Dupree Engineering, Office 2 Staff Report, Great Rhode Island. On behalf of the AMBRA, we have pulled together this site plan for the project for the Firestone Complete Auto Care. What you see on screen of the 6 acres of the parcel, roughly about an acre, 1.2 acres is being developed. That's signified by this dark dash line around property and into the right of way. The site was developed using Bridgestone's Bridgestone partially to change Bridgestone's typical building for an 8-bay unit system. The overhead doors will face inwards to the site. We're going to have access off the New Haven Road for a
drive aisle into the site and park along the south side of the page into the east side of the northeast side of the page, and have access from the bottom of the main point of entry for the building is along that face. Site proposes concrete pavement grout in the areas of parking spaces will be water quality and stormwater treatment area of pervious pavement, pervious concrete. It also has underground infiltration system that's within the drive aisle as you enter into the site. Provides 29 parking spaces, 288 compliant with the loading zone, 88 access in front of the door entrance. As far as truck circulation, fire truck circulation, the entrance has been developed for the truck turn movement to come into the site either way and enter the back of the property, and then there's a long drive aisle on the back. And that's fully purpose for a truck to come in back into where the enclosed dumpster is and unload the goods from the trucks that are servicing the building. Likewise for fire truck to make a 3-point turn, come into the site, and then exit out. What do you see? From a pre-application meeting with the borough and town departments, we have added a sidewalk along New Haven Road as suggested. Via concrete sidewalk along the edge of New Haven Road. ADA access, compliant ramps on either side that improve to the frontage of the property. I mentioned the dumpster enclosure that's also on the top of the page. That also has a tire storage enclosure with a roof. That's where they have tires that they use in the business and store them for when they pick them up from deliveries. The proposed utilities, the intention is to upgrade existing utilities, utilize the existing service locations they are and upgrade to a size that's suitable for the development. That's sewer, water, gas, electric will have an overhead wire that comes from across the main road into the site to a utility pole where there would be an underground wire that services the Firestone building on the front side. All underground. Part of the project plan that I mentioned, you want to go to this stormwater page, grading sheet. That's so to touch upon site stormwater, the intention for the project is to have the roof runoff the building itself that will be captured by underground leaders into the underground storm tech system, chamber system that's within the driveway. That will have pre-treatment and maintenance clean outs for long-term, short-term maintenance renew. And then for the majority of the site, the stormwater and the grading of the site will sheet flow to the parking field on the right-hand side of the page. That is the area, what's outlined in purple is the storm creep system, the parking impervious concrete panels as they're called. You can see it on some of the sheet details in fact. There are these precast 4 feet by 5 feet panels that infiltrate stormwater into the substrate of the area to a gravel reservoir area. And that's gravel area or the stormwater area is delineated by that purple hatch. And that system, both systems have been designed for the 100-year storm event to mitigate
a 100-year storm event to provide water quality treatment. What's also very important about this project is that have flagged the on-site wetland, delineated on the right-hand side, A series wetland. The edge of disturbance or in the work is along the edge of the 100-foot upland area, and there would be no temporary or permanent disturbance within that upland review area. That was critical item of the project. We didn't want to disturb any of the upland or any of those environmental sensitive areas. Site today is largely disturbed, so from a pre to post condition, it's we're maintaining that existing disturbance and creating not disturbing a lot of trees. We're utilizing what's there today for proposed work. Yes, part of the work we will be removing two houses there today. I believe are residential apartments. So as part of the project plan, we've provided a landscape plan that has landscaping all along the edges of the parking field in front of the building. You have that aesthetic from New Haven Road. Any other questions? If there's any questions, we have Justin Bruce, applicant online for operational or any basic information.
Yeah, they're all down one. Yeah. Thanks. I have a question. Sheet 3. All the way to the right.
What's the name of the page?
Name of the page is existing conditions. All the way to the right at the bottom.
Yes.
The Lewis and Regina Dean house.
Yes.
Appears to have a fence and shed and a whole bunch of stuff on your property.
That's correct. Yeah, as part of the survey, we've found we'll call it encroachment of the shed and fence. The applicant Justin is currently working with those about to look at and review that. Yep. And there's a number of rights of ways and easements on the property, and as part of this project, we're just staying out.
Now, it doesn't affect what you're doing, but it could be a problem.
What we're proposing won't be affected by existing easements or any of that. And I don't know if you have mentioned, but we will be consolidating the lots into one. Our application.
Part of our application is to merge the property all into one big lot. So the middle sliver piece, which is tiny, will join the two larger pieces. We'll have a full 6.04 acres once we take title.
Any other questions?
Gary?
I'm not good at Zoom. No, I'm good.
Thank you.
Justin Bruce, if you wanted to touch on anything, let him. Which we got Jay Bruce.
Yes.
Thank you guys hear me?
Yes.
One second. Hey, how about now?
They can hear me, it's echoey.
Justin,
You want to?
All right, here. Sorry, I had to take it off my phone. I'm sorry. I was having issues with my speaker, my computer when we started the meeting. So fortunately, I have you guys muted right now, but it looks like you guys can hear me. Sorry about that. Yeah, we're the applicant. We're Zaremba Group. We are a developer out of Cleveland, Ohio, and we are Bridgestone's preferred developer. We have the land under contract to purchase with Dean and Paul Rotatori, working with both of them as we move forward through here. And Bridgestone would be our tenant. And Joe and Kevin did a great job explaining our project to you guys, so I won't go into any of the details on that. But Bridgestone, they're a good client. When they identify a market they want to be at, they're a tenant who wants to stay in the market for a long time. I think on average right now their current leases are 51 years. So with that said, when they want to go to a town, they want to be there for a long time, and in turn that makes them want to keep up a very nice store appearance wise with ongoing maintenance and the building, landscaping. So that's one of the benefits of Bridgestone as a future client. And as far as the site plan, Joe did a good job touching on that with the neighbor Benny's in the back. We are working with Paul and our own real estate team on keeping that in place for them. So as we move forward with the project, that won't be touched, along with the rest of that trees along those properties in the back with all those neighbors. We have no intentions of being back there. So the properties will remain as is. Obviously, we got to get through the paperwork to get it done as a new owner, but it's something we're working with them on it. And we have no intent of removing those. So no, that's it. I'm gonna mute myself here and turn my speaker back on so you don't have to hear all the echoing.
It's just. Any other questions? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to send a positive referral to the zoning commission.
I'll move.
For retail.
You can keep going.
For a retail car repair facility on the property located at 856 New Haven Road. Applicant Melinda Group LLC.
Gary.
That's it. Yes, I move.
Yeah. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any further comment? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Question. Extensions?
Thank you very much, commissioners.
Thank you.
Appreciate it greatly, and it's good to see you all. Run this into a nice public hearing. It's very enjoyable.
Absolutely. See, moving on, new business B. The commission discussion and decision regarding on referral to the zoning commission for the construction of a ball field for the property located at 257 Osborne Road. Delgado Field Complex, applicant for Canada.
And can I ask for those plans back after living?
Okay.
The ones for the ball field.
Yeah.
Just the bigger set, the SLR ones. Is there a field there now? Yes.
Yeah.
Another field? Is it bigger?
Yeah,
Yeah, Jim will tell you all about it.
The answer is yes or yes. There's a ball field there now. The proposal is in the general direction of north to add the second ball field and 3 mini soccer fields, not full-size soccer fields.
Half field.
I'm gonna turn the presentation over to Bob Clark.
Are you through?
You want to entertain the motion now, or?
No. You're gonna leave it with him?
No, I was just waiting for it to be started. Okay, so we're proposing to add an additional field. Jim Stewart, representing the town, professional engineer, licensed land surveyor in the state. Okay. 229 Church Street. Town Hall.
Have to be consistent.
So this is Osborne Field, Osborne Road, cul-de-sac, and the existing field is right in this area. Okay, I put together an entire site plan. The existing cell tower and parking lot, which was approved recently, is in this location. And this is a what is it size? 16-acre parcel that the borough acquired from the water company. As part of that, there is a 2.41 acre parcel within that 16-acre parcel that is dedicated for recreational use. So Stern or SLR has designed a field in that location. And we can go through those plans in a moment. But it does include one multi-purpose field that could have multiple soccer fields, 1, 2, or 3, depending on how you line it, and one softball, skin softball field, with an access way to the parking lot, mostly for coaches and emergency vehicles at this point. We've also designed another parking lot in this area, which I can move to next.
Can you share your screen?
Am I not sharing the screen? I apologize. See, I work hard for everyone else's presentation, well, mine.
Poor presentation here, I tell you.
Poor, it is terrible. Here. How's that better?
Much better.
Okay,
Thank
so
you.
there's Osborne, there's the existing field here. Cell tower that was approved recently there. New field with access way through the parking lot and proposed newly parking lot to be constructed. Okay. I do here. Stop sharing. Let's see. That's good. Share this. So put together a quick design of a parking lot in the wooded area next to the existing field. And it would include a retaining wall, which is the easy block we put in throughout town. I think it's the same one that's along Rubber Avenue, the new wall along Rubber Avenue on the left as you go on up. And would be about 6 feet high at the highest and transition down to 1 or 2 feet and then graded down. Would have a 5% cross slope, would be gravel at this point. And access directly onto the paved access road that's there now. Okay, so there's the 16-acre parcel we acquired from the water company. Doing here, I don't know why that's in front, but okay, there's the entire parcel with the grading of the field area. And I believe. Okay, so there's the grading of the finished field. So let me see if I can get you what we're going to talk about. Okay, so it would be fenced. There's swales around the side to collect stormwater. And then there would be this gravel driveway up to a flat and level. We're calling it overflow parking area, but it's probably going to be, for coaches and equipment to be brought up there and such. And we're proposing 2 dugouts, and there's an area for grandstands for people to watch both games. Since it's elevated, they can watch the existing field as well. Property is in R65 zone. Talked about that. Talked about there will be this bedrock exposed, fairly significant work involved. There'll definitely be significant blasting to level the field. But we're planning on being mostly a balanced site, except for the materials we got to put in to make make the actual field itself topsoil, clay and such, but we are gonna need to bring in fill to build the park. Any questions? I'm sure. Bob Clark? Questions?
Right now, with Kevin Delgado Field, great looking field, by the way. The neighbors constantly complain about lack of parking.
Yes.
It just, as it exists now. So. Several questions. Does anybody actually believe that with this increased parking, it's adequate for that, for multiple fields?
Well, we are planning to put up a net, which will allow people to use the parking lot that they're not using now. And we're planning to obviously add those 26 parking spaces. I don't think it's enough for 3 mini soccer fields and another soccer field. But I do believe it's enough for a practice, 2 practice games and maybe one well-attended game.
Sure.
Baseball.
Baseball.
I did. The Hartford is,
I don't know that we're gonna be doing, all this at one time. I mean, because this is just a concept as far as the number of fields, but obviously if you put 50 first graders on the field with 50 parents on both, you know what I mean? Yeah, it's not, that's gonna have to be taken into account when you utilize the area. There is additional area to put another parking lot down below, the one we're proposing. But we're not proposing it at this point until we find that there's a future need of it, because the neighbors are so concerned with the impact of removing trees and all that.
500 gallons per tree, we heard it today.
Yes.
Is there a net between the existing field and the proposed fields? Or are people on the new field going to have foul balls land on them?
That's an excellent question.
Well, the answer is.
I'm not a big baseball person, so I'm gonna have to ask that question. But it would make I'm gonna have to look at where, well, let me look, hold on.
From the angle of the field, it only needs a big backstop because anybody facing home plate would be looking at the other field, so they could see pop flies coming over the top. It's the batter and the umpire that would be subjected to getting hit.
Let's look. So I would assume with the backstop in this location,
You sure?
that
Foul ball
maybe
over.
the people in the bleachers that are located in this area may have a problem, but they should be watching the game like you're at a baseball game. Right? Isn't that what it's done? Don't you sit there and watch it because you're gonna hit in the head with a ball if you're not?
If you're watching the right game, yeah.
I should have asked this question first. When we acquired the property from the water company, I know there were restrictions on its use. Is this in violation of any covenants with the property we acquired from them?
This field?
Yes.
No, that's the property was acquired with this 2-acre piece, particularly to put a field in.
Just,
Yes,
Does the rest have the?
it was, we picked the levelest area that was the best for a field, and then that's why this little dog leg here. Was put in there so we could wrap around and get in, so that's why.
Could an ambulance use that little dog?
That would be the plan, yes.
Only if the coach doesn't say, "Oh, I found this for my heart."
Well, hopefully they park up in here.
That's for the coaches, you said.
Yeah, the coaches, the ambulance, the.
And I can't remember, is
There
there,
are lawnmowers to get up there, equipment to get up there.
no, is there water on site now?
There is,
In the
this is
sanitary?
irrigated, this is all irrigated. We would have to run another line from either the street or from our existing irrigation system. We ran a fairly sizable line up here with a pump system. Because it couldn't create enough pressure, but I believe we sized it appropriately for two fields. We'd have to run the irrigation system, separately, but what I recall, it was sized appropriately to run another field, because it was always the plan to hopefully build another field.
Did we water the existing field today?
I hope not.
Mother Nature did.
We did have a very good irrigation system that's supposed to have moisture sensors, so if it's working, it shouldn't let you do it.
Are there restrooms up there?
There's porta potties up there. In season.
Is there? And I know there's not in Algoma. If you go up there and watch sort of little shade spectating. Present time. So in doing this, is there any thought of a pavilion or something for those of us who are no longer time?
There is nothing in the current plan, but I'm assuming that if the need or the desire was there, they could put up some sort of a sunshade or something like that, similar to what we have at the skateboard park. For those people who don't want to bring an umbrella.
And it's a nice artistically pleasing layout. Three youth side soccer team. Has this been run by the organization that runs soccer in town, or is this just to make it artistically pleasing?
This was artistically pleasing in my opinion. I generally, we don't normally do this. It's such a small area. I don't think and you're correct that the parking is probably not enough to do this layout. Normally we would do one, either in this direction or in this direction. If we're gonna use it for soccer.
Once the kids get to be 9 years old, the minimum of 11 players on each side, that's 22, couldn't coexist with that parking.
And now you don't want to sit around and watch them anyway, drop them off and you drive away.
So I'm sorry.
I, knowing what else is being proposed in town, I am not inclined to look negatively upon additional fields. This foul balls are gonna get in here. And it's fine if it's perfect, it is, but kind of fond of my grandchildren. So that no physical barrier to prevent that is a drawback. But I'm not gonna argue about additional features.
Well, I certainly will bring that up with the staff that's more baseball inclined than I am.
Jim, is that something that we're gonna build, or are we gonna bring in a company that builds baseball fields?
Well, we have a grant from the state for $1.8 million. Our plan is, and we have plans set up to clear the area, set up the seasonal erosion control, and blast and grade to a flat site.
No, fields are pitched.
Well, a pitched flat site, flatter than it is now. And the borough would then subcontract the rest of the field, we would, like we did with the other field, we would hire the company that does the lighting, hire them directly, so we're not paying the markup. And we probably grade the topsoil and hire the guy that actually runs the grader and then hire individually the irrigation guy and probably build the interior field and hire the fence guy and have him put the fencing in and the light. So rather than paying one person to piecemeal it all up, mark up everything by 20-30%.
I'm looking for that baseball field architect that's just gonna say, yeah, we need to put this net up here so the fields don't trade balls. But I don't think that's gonna be up to us.
No.
No, yeah, I can certainly, SLR designed the fields, and I can certainly ask them what their opinion about netting. I think that's a great point. I don't want to have the same problem we had with the parking lot.
Yeah, and if you
Home runs
look
into
where
car
the
windows.
parking lot is vis-a-vis
Well, I
the
mean, I think it's less, if you look at the existing field here, I would think it's less likely since the parking lot is right there. And, you know, they go right over there and hit it. It's less likely that I imagine it's gonna go over and it's gonna miss this 20-foot fence that's here. And then the 8-foot fence there. It's a hell of a pop that would go all the way over. I mean, imagine it can happen.
You've never seen me hit 9-iron, have you?
Yeah, no. That's why it's a golf course, I guess.
No, it could happen, and that's. You go with the best advice you can get. Yep. To limit your own liability. You see, somebody go back and say, no, we looked at that, and this is our expert opinion.
They go down the hand, goes to the field, on and do it today. Have 2 telephone poles with a net between them.
Really?
Yeah. Their telephone, 50-foot telephone poles with a net. I don't know that. Prop to keep them off the highway.
Off the highway, well, that's a little bit of a problem.
I didn't save my Maverick, but I was down at the Little League World Series. Not because I was watching it, I had a cousin who wanted to. He had ended up with a hole this big in my fine work product. That was a few years ago. And that was out of the stadium. I mean. So it can't happen, but that's concerning the parking. Somehow, when I think of Nautica, I think parking problem just comes up with.
Yeah, I'd make that parking lot as large as I reasonably could without creating 14-foot retaining walls.
Exactly.
At that point, you'd want to put another one down on the lower level.
But if you did go with a 14-foot, we could call it Great Wall of Story.
We could also let people graffiti it.
I think that's a great idea. I think
You can bring that up with the pro board.
return.
Please don't say that.
A retaining wall mural, sports themed would be an excellent idea.
Well, I need to know before we actually pick the wall. If we want stone facing, I don't know if the mural's gonna work.
Are there any more serious comments? Hearing none, I'm entertaining a motion to send the positive referrals to the zoning commission. For the construction of a ball field for the property located at 257 Osborne Road, Delgado Field Complex and Borough of the North. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Any further comments? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Abstentions?
You need back.
Yes. Correspondence, yeah, one piece, Amanda gave it to you, Bob.
Yes.
Want me to read it again?
Yes.
All right, this is a letter sent to the life board thing. From the Sean Law Group. On behalf of TLA Solar 330 LLC, subsidiary of TriTech Americas LLC. We are writing to inform you that TA Solar 330 LLC intends to file a petition for declaratory ruling with the Connecticut Siting Council on or about July 24th, seeking approval of the construction, operation, and maintenance of a 3.92 megawatt solar photovoltaic electric generating facility, including all associated equipment, related site improvements, and interconnection to the electric grid. The project. We're receiving this letter pursuant to section 15-15J. -40A of the regulation of the Connecticut state agencies, either because you are an owner of the property that abuts the property that is subject to this petition, or because you are a municipal official or government agency to whom the petitioner is required to give notice. After the petition is filed, you're invited to view it at the council's website. The address, or by visiting the council's office at 10 Franklin Square, the Britain Canadian since 5 on. You're stated, I'm sure. The location is 0 Smith Road, down in Florida.
There's nothing up online yet. Haven't checked today. I checked Friday, but you can see where it is. It's Parade's property, Parade Sons, see or something. They have multiple parcels up there. They had one other application to the siting council, and I think 2025 it was denied because of the amount of trees they were taking down. So then they reduced the size of the project to 0.99. Anything over 1 meg goes to the siting council. They reduced it to 0.99. They've been going back and forth with me, and I find Ned said they should send it to the Wetlands Commission to decide. They're out of the 100-foot upland review area, but I believe they're upstream. It will be flowing down. So that one will be a special permit. The other one, this one will not come before us because of the size unless they deny it for some reason, but it takes a good long time. Like last year, they went through the whole process. They get all of their reports in place from deep and wetlands flagged and everything. And I believe there's wetlands through the center of this property. So they sent a letter to you, all the commission chairs, planning, zoning, wetlands, the mayor. I got one. Just giving you notice. That's all.
Anything else?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Those in favor?
I'll take it. Aye.